Today, we were lucky enough to bring in Ken Johnston, the VP of Sales for ES Foundry. What's super cool about their company is that they're the second solar cell manufacturer in the U.S. Ever.
Yeah. It's kind of something that would have been unthinkable maybe 5 years ago, that we would be seeing new investments in solar manufacturing generally, because, that's not been a narrative we've seen in the U.S. across industries. But solar cells in particular have been really, really a tough nut to crack when thinking about building out the supply chain. And that's a testament to the sort of comprehensive nature of the clean energy tax credits that were passed a few years ago. But it's also a testament to businesses like ES Foundry for acting quickly, being really thoughtful about how they make these investments, and just wanting this to happen, wanting to realize this vision of building out some real power here in the U.S. for U.S. manufacturing. And ES Foundry has a great story to tell, and we're excited to be sharing that with this audience, and also on the Hill tomorrow at the manufacturing expo that we're planning. So it's gonna be good.
Yep, 100%. So listen in.
Ken, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate you taking some time and sharing your story with the Good Energy audience. And would love to just start by you giving us a background on ES Foundry, and probably most importantly the factory that you all have developed down in South Carolina, and we want to get into the nerdy details of what that means for the solar supply chain here in the US, and just how that came to be. So love to hear about it.
Yeah, so we set up a factory in Greenwood, South Carolina, and it's so exciting to see. It's over 400,000 square feet, a factory, and it was a perfect location to develop and manufacture solar cells. And we just couldn't be more excited to be there. It had all the proper power structure in place, the water structure, so those key components are so important in the solar power or solar energy production that we have to do with the solar cells. So basically, the infrastructure was in place, and then what we did was bring in the equipment to manufacture solar cells. And of course, we had to do a little bit of rework on the building, handle the chemicals, the scrubbers for exhaust, and environmental compliance. So really cool. And it was a old Fuji film manufacturing plant that we are able to recondition.
Cool.
For it. So the power is so stable there. It hasn't gone down in 14 years. And in fact, the hurricanes that came through the Carolinas last year were the only ones with power. So the team was cooking pizzas for everybody. It was nice. A really cool story on how they were serving the community and, doing pizzas.
So there's two questions I have.
Yeah,
one,
of course.
Because we have a general audience, so I'd love for you to break down what is a solar cell for folks. But I also want to know what that process is like when you're looking. I don't know if you were a part of ES Foundry when they were trying to figure out where to build, but what that process is like. Finding the Fuji location is ideal in a business-friendly state. How did that process work?
I wasn't part of ES Foundry, but our CEO, Alex Zhu, was. And so when he saw the IRA bill and saw the importance of domestic content, he immediately got on board with it. And it was so exciting. So he spent, I'd say, close to 6 months traveling throughout the U.S. He knew a lot of these factories before and was really looking for the right building. And the building, the infrastructure was just in place and in a business-friendly environment like South Carolina. And then the Fuji film, it was just, obviously film's a little bit of a dead industry, unfortunately or fortunately. And it just worked out really perfect. And so he started executing immediately on the contracts to get the building secured. And we got the equipment started coming in and getting the right team in place. And especially in Greenwood, South Carolina, it's just such a talented area with so many energetic and enthusiastic people that work there that we've been able to bring a part of our company. Like every time I go there, because I work remote in sales, just this full vibe of we can accomplish anything. We're here to help you. Tell us what to do, and we're on it. And it's just this amazing atmosphere and just the energy that I get when I go visit the factory. I mean, every time they're just so excited to show off. Look, this new piece of equipment's in, or we got this part done, and
I love
the
that.
Painting on the building's done. And it's just it's just a magical environment there.
That's awesome.
So great.
That's so cool that the stars aligned, because when you think about what you need to build a domestic manufacturing facility like that, you need a business-friendly policy space. You need the ability to power your facility, and that was already built in, and you need talent.
That's right.
Which Georgia has a plethora of. That's fantastic.
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
That's right.
Edit that out. Actually, keep it in. That's fine. We like Georgia, too.
Georgia's good, too.
Georgia's good, too. Yeah.
It's very close.
So, walk us through a little bit about solar cells in particular, because, we've been talking a lot about the resurgence in American manufacturing and the solar supply chain, which has been incredible to see in the last few years. But cells in particular have been a really challenging part of that supply chain, and ES Foundry is really on the leading edge of doing that manufacturing here in the U.S. So what does that process look like? Why has that been such a challenging piece of the puzzle for the U.S.?
Right. Well, the solar cells is a very important piece of the overall manufacturing process to get a solar module. It all really starts with the polysilicon. You melt the polysilicon down, you grow these huge ingots. They're look like giant tree trunks. And then you slice them up into wafers. And then the wafers are what we take and process into the solar cell, which then we give to the module companies. And they laminate and frame the cells to produce the modules and panels that you see on all the different power sites throughout the U.S. The solar cell is probably the most, arguably the most intensive piece of the overall puzzle. It's very technically hard to do. It's very complicated. Lots of process steps are required. And it's what actually changes the sunlight into electricity. And through the PN junction, I related to like muscles in our body where you take the energy of your body and it's changed into useful work. That's what the solar cell does. And I won't get into, the positive name of semiconductor junction and valence band and conduction band. There's a lot smarter people than me to talk about the physics and quantum mechanics that goes on there, but it's a magical process there. I think it's been really hard to get it going here in the U.S. because you need the right policy that we're seeing now with IRA bill, right? And having the right manufacturing credits, because we don't have the scale here, the skill set, the technology. Like we've kind of lost all that throughout the ages. And, as time's gone on, back in the 50s and 60s, Bell Labs was manufacturing solar cells and panels. We're the first in the world. And you can look online, you can see some of the original demos. They're had this carousel they were powering and old transistor radios. And it was just really cool to go back and see this technology back then. And then in the 80s, kind of time went on, 80s, 90s, the cost structure just wasn't in place compared to other countries. So we lost a lot of the technology, manufacturing know-how. And then 2000s, I would say that the solar energy industry was very focused on development. And then 2010, 2011, a few players tried to ramp it back up and kept things going, which was, good for them, very brave companies. And then IRA came along, and that's really the game changer that happened to get the manufacturing credits in place.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you laying that out because it is such an amazing story. We invented this product here in the U.S. and to see it coming back in such a serious way is really exciting. So kudos to you and the team. Yeah.
So you're here to go back down to Capitol Hill tomorrow. What's your key message? What's your top line message when you're talking to members of Congress tomorrow?
We really need to take care of the developers. And it's so important. We could have the best manufacturing credits, the best manufacturing facility in the world. And if you don't have the demand from the developers or partners out there, it's just meaningless. It all has to be linked together. Now, we love seeing the manufacturing jobs. I am a self-proclaimed manufacturing nerd. I love the factory environment. I absolutely love it. And seeing the job creation and real career roadmaps are being put into place now. We could really have people get their engineering degree, walk out with process engineering, cell engineering in the United States of America. And this has not been an option for us for decades. And it's just phenomenal to me. So, great jobs, but take care of the developers as well. It's so important.
Yeah, the whole suite of policies that pulls demand from U.S. production is closely linked to the growth of deployment in the U.S. And I think that's been it's taken time, I think, to really educate members of Congress on how interlinked all these different policies are, that you can't sort of take one away and keep the other and hope that it's going to be successful.
Yeah, that's right. And in a non-paid promotion for SIA, that's what I really feel like you all do so well. It's just painting that picture for industry and, the politicians. Because without SIA, I don't think this would definitely not be happening, without a doubt. And it's educated me throughout my career so much, and seeing how SIA operates. Like, I would have had no clue like how any of this works in DC. Like, I'm a manufacturing guy.
Yeah.
So
well, that's our job, is to hopefully, make the policy happen so that you can be the manufacturing nerd. We can be the Washington nerds.
That's what I want to be, the manufacturing nerd.
Let's say, best case scenario, the halls of Congress maintain the most critical components of the American Clean Energy Tax Incentive Program. What does the future of ES Foundry look like over the next 10 to 20 years? Can you get to a point where you export? Like, what's your North Star? Paint a picture for us what that might look like.
Yeah, I think for sure it would be progressing our technology map to serve the U.S. market for sure. We won't be able to get to the scale or cost point to compete against countries like China that have invested decades and decades and have this massive infrastructure in place, these campuses where you handle every part of the manufacturing process. So I think it's, pull the technology down the roadmap, get to the higher efficiency cells as fast as we can. But we want to really make sure that we have a stable, quality, reliable product line for our developers, for our customers. We want to make sure they have surety of supply before we jump into the next node of technology, and, really be able to provide them with a really solid product. That's really our goal. And then we'll pull it, we'll probably scale up eventually. Our plans right now are 1 gigawatts up and running now, and then we're going to get to about 3 gigawatts of total production about August, September timeframe.
Nice.
Then we're going to see where reconciliation lands, how the market demand is, and then we'll make our next step and what we want to do going forward.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the sky's the limit. There's like you said, there's room enough in the market and in the demand structure for a lot more of this kind of manufacturing growth. And I hope we can keep that optimism going and hopefully see that continue into the future. So.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective about supporting the developers, because we don't talk about that enough. We talk about it internally a ton, but externally that's harder for people to wrap their brains around. But maintaining that demand is a super important component for making sure that the industry can continue to grow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really smart.
Yeah, rising tide. So, well, Ken, really appreciate it. Knock 'em dead tomorrow, and hope the message keeps landing on how we're driving these investments. So
really appreciate y'all, and keep up the great work here at SIA. We're so grateful for y'all.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.